Have you ever been gaming or working online classes and your internet service constantly gets interrupted? First Nations Fiber is about to ensure that just won't happen again. Get ready for high speed at a new level. Click on fnfiber.com and sign up today. First Nations Fiber, empowering people through connectivity.
And welcome to Kwakaratón. We share our stories with Kahnawake Tourism. My name is Bronwyn Gawanahoe-Johns, and I'm Public Relations Officer with Kahnawake Tourism, and we are joined today to talk about ice racing. We have a special guest in studio, Briar Lawrence, who has been part of the organization through the years. We're just going to give him a chance to introduce himself and give him a little story of how he got involved in the ice racing.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? I'm Briar. I've been running the ice races for a few years now, and just out here talking about what we do, how we get it going, and what we want to do for the community, have something to do on the weekends to come enjoy some ice racing.
So as the winter season winds down, we had a pretty good season this year. The ice was thick. I know that talking with Kirby Joe on our last podcast, they were able to have a good ice fishing season this year. So how was it for you this season with the ice racing?
Oh, it was pretty good. We were able to start our season quite early this year. It was actually the earliest we've had good ice like this in a while. We had a little issue with the boats passing so late this year. They usually didn't go in that long of a season. So we had to call off one of our first races that we had scheduled for the weekend because, we didn't want to take the chances of anybody's safety out there. There's a lot of kids and a lot of spectators that come around parking in their vehicles, So with the boats passing, with the ice, how thick it was, it was okay to be on there with, at your own risk and just a couple people trying to practice with their cars. We did have a practice with the boats passing still, but we had no issues, but it was just not worth everybody else's safety. So, but other than that, we had a pretty long season. The last couple of years we didn't get too many weekends in because of the weather, But and then this year was just it was great. We had no issues with any kind of getting on and off the ice. We actually built some ramps just because last year we did that, and it made us have an easier time getting off and on, especially for a lot of people with cars and the trailers. You know what I mean? So, but it turned out to be pretty easy this year. We didn't have too many issues with accessing the ice.
That's awesome. Yeah, I like the track setup that you had. I was out on the ice for the ice fishing derby a few weeks ago, and everybody liked the flow that you guys had made. And then you guys had switched it, right? The ice fishing cabins were on the other side last year, and the track was on the right.
Yeah, because every year was mostly like a gamble if we were going to do a race or not. So we didn't get to really plan it out with the ice shacks. We kind of would just go out there and make a track, and Kirby Joe was really open to working around anything we needed to do. If we had to move a couple shacks, we always tried to work together, and I always was open to maybe change my days if he had a ice fishing derby on there, just for the safety of everybody and the kids. And more of that, it's better if there's one event going on the ice at a time, because he's trying to get all the youth and everybody's attention on the ice fishing, and you can't really focus too much when you got cars going around behind you. You know what I mean? So I always tried to work out with days and events that we were going to host on the ice. So
that's awesome. Those collaborations are really important for the community. With all the activities that are happening, do you see a big rise in the youth getting interested in your activities in specific? Because we've seen that his activities booked up real quick this summer, and he filled up real quick this winter. So did you have a big participation from the community?
Yeah, I'm encouraging anybody to get out there and try it. It doesn't matter if you're, I started pretty young when Brandon White was running the Kahnawake Marina Super Series. He actually put out a junior class. So it started off with, there was maybe 4 or 5 of us kids. There was me, Wahatahoga White, Jake Rice, Geru Dixon, Ogwardi White Jr., and who else? Oh, Jimbo Goodleaf. There was a. I might be missing one or two. I'm not too sure, but those were the guys that were out there. We were 14, 15 years old, and we always had access to, our fathers had cars or something, so we'd always mess around with them. And then, so it gave us something to do, and also for us to get into something, that kept us busy on the weekends. And we were all into cars and stuff like that. And then even a couple of our buddies that weren't too much into cars, they would come and do it, and it's a lot of fun. So
yeah, it's a whole team vibe of everybody bonding together.
For sure. We're a bunch of adrenaline junkies, you know what I mean? So, I'm encouraging anybody to get out there, especially the younger kids, with, there's a lot of kids out there riding four-wheelers, you know what I mean? They're bored. They have nothing to do, It'd be cool to try to get them to try something else, It doesn't take much. It's the only thing that's hard nowadays is trying to find the older vehicles, like, we're using a lot of 1980s to the early 90s of vehicles. Other than that, it's like they ain't really built too good.
To last.
Yeah, to last, and that was just the body style of everybody's vehicles. So it's cool, but it's also getting challenging to try to find cars. Especially when you do a lot of work to your vehicle, and it could be
a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot of time. There's it's an expensive hobby,
Just doing the tires alone.
Yeah, for sure. It's you gotta even if you don't know what you're doing, you gotta at least try. Because there's not a lot of too many garages that are gonna just be building ice cars for everybody else. Exactly. So you gotta tackle it yourself and put in the work. So
for anybody who doesn't know what I'm talking about, for ice racing specifically, you have to have big screws put in the tires. So hundreds and hundreds of screws per tire. So it's quite the job to just do that aspect of it, let alone prepare the vehicle for safety on the ice. And I know from experience, I was told a couple times I was a little bit crazy for wanting to be a passenger in the ice races. But my cousin Charlie Rice let me ride along with him for a couple races, and it was better than any roller coaster I ever went on. So if anybody is looking for something new, a new hobby to get into, it really is something really enjoyable, really fun. And like I said, it brings everybody together to get the product out there so you can have a safe vehicle on the ice. So, like I said, I was out on the ice years ago. I worked one event one year when Brandon White had dirt bike races on the ice. That was my first experience with it. And like I said, it was a really fun time. Recently, you guys had a memorial race for Brandon White. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was actually the second annual memorial race for him. We started it last year. It kicked off the year for our first weekend. It was so short notice, and we didn't know how really it was gonna go, but it ended up being like something we really didn't expect. We raised I'm pretty sure like almost $20,000 to the Purple Ribbon. Yeah, just in one day with all everybody around the community that donated money, or just people being at the marina when they had their table set up. A lot of people came in and made donations. So. It was really something special to be a part of, especially, because I grew up just down the road from him. So growing up with him, we always had dirt bikes, four-wheelers. He would make us tracks. Like, we always had something to do, and he was always out there making tracks. And, we lived right up the road, me and Derek's son, Watahogu. So we were always on our four-wheelers on his tracks, and he would let us try his cars, like that he had. We were like, maybe 10 years old when we started driving ice cars, just getting in the seat and trying it out. But
that's so fun.
Yeah, it was cool to be a part of, bringing it back, and for everybody to notice like how hard of a job it is to run this ice racing and to be out there. And some nights you're out there all night preparing for the day, and then you're running it all day, So
yeah,
he did that, and that's why I took over the responsibility to try to get this all done. I do have a lot of guys around the community that do help out. It's all
the collaboration.
Yeah, it's a collaboration.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to see the race, so hey, we can get this. We can get it done faster if you come help.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I do have a lot of help. I'm not alone on this. But
that's awesome.
Yeah.
And his brother was just racing NASCAR in Florida a few weeks ago.
Yeah. He was at Daytona, and then just this past weekend he wasn't there because he was racing the truck series. Yeah. So he's put in a lot of years ice racing, so I don't blame. It's nice and warm where he's at, so I would rather be, and and it's NASCAR, and it's what's better than that,
And it's really awesome for the youth to be able to see these races that are happening in our community, and then look on a TV screen and see somebody from our community representing with our flag on the hood of their vehicle. So
for sure,
showing our youth that you can dream big and accomplish things. So for yourself, you started running this 3 years ago. What do you want to see happen in the future that's coming?
More of I want to make it bigger. I want to make it bigger and bigger. I want more people to come out from other places around our community. There's a race in Maple Grove in Bahornwa. They've been doing for years and years. I think it's like they had their 61st annual season. It's called the Club Kilowatts.
Okay.
So
is that the area where they do the hydroplane racing also?
The boat racing in Valleyfield. I think it's a little up, but it's the same same area. Okay, it's not too far down the road. So they have a lot of people that go out there. Their spectators are they have a really big crowd every week, and people around town, they're used to seeing the ice races and this and that, so it's something just to check out. But them, they look forward to this all year. They have big parties. They have all kinds of different foods and stuff like that. They're having a big party on the weekend. That's their bread and butter. So we're trying to get more people to come down. Because a lot of people are a little iffy about coming to Kahnawake. Just with all the history and stuff like that. But it makes it better for the both of us. We can all bond and, become friends. A lot of people that came down here didn't realize how friendly we could be, and we are, it's there's no issues with, non-natives coming to race, we want to see that,
taking those walls down.
Making
those
it's
connections.
Yeah, exactly. It gives everybody a chance to see, that we're nice people, we're not what everybody says we are, so
that's awesome. Tourism is something that I'm really happy to be able to be a part of, because I find that there's so many of those opportunities where you get to make friendships, have relationships with people that you never would have thought would have happened. And when I pitched this idea for this podcast to my boss, she was actually surprised of it. She didn't know the scope of ice racing, and she didn't realize the tourism impact that it has on our community. So that's something that I'm excited to hear, all these things that you're doing, to know that in the future, these are collaborations that we could be working on to get those people there for these opportunities. We're constantly growing with tourism and letting people know where the places are to visit. So everybody that's listening today, you had the opportunity to hear a podcast about the ice fishing, and that's happening at the Kahnawake Marina. And this is where the ice races will be happening again next year at the Kahnawake Marina. So if you're interested, check it out. Make your way on down to Kahnawake. With the youth in the community, we see that there's a lot of kids that have these four-wheelers, these side-by-sides, and we want to make sure that they stay safe, and we want to make sure that they use them properly. With moving forward with your programming, did you have any ideas of how to incorporate the youth into the different aspects of what you're trying to do?
Yeah, so I was thinking, it was a little short notice to try to do it this year, but I was thinking maybe to start like a four-wheeler class, like, kids from town that wanted, they want to race, because they're out there every night, you know what I mean? There's a group of kids that are always on the track, and I like to see it, but also it's hard to know that I made that track, and if one of them get hurt, I want to make sure there's always, I try to encourage kids to wear helmets, like I still to this day, I won't go on my four-wheeler without some kind of helmet on, you know what I mean? But because I had a pretty big accident when I was younger, and I had a helmet on, so it saved my life.
Yeah.
It saved my life more than anything to have that helmet on, and then it just on my father all the time. Even driving a pedal bike growing up, I had to wear a helmet. I was just it's so important to keep your head safe. You just because you think you look cool without a helmet on, you really don't. Like it's hard. Growing up and keep telling these kids, but it's more like the parents do have to enforce that they have helmets on. Everybody does, but at the same time, they might get down the road and take their helmets off and, but they don't understand how important it is even to be in an ice car, to have a helmet on.
Exactly. Yeah. So maybe you need to take a little walk through the schools and give a little pep talk.
Yeah. Because I have pretty good experience. I spent a couple.
Sometimes to hear it from somebody like you has a lot more impact than to hear it from your mom telling you.
For sure. And I that's what I try to do. I try to encourage all these kids to just be safe. Be careful. Don't drink and drive on bikes. Everybody's done it. It's hard in our community. You know what I mean? But I've done it myself too, and I've crashed, and I just want to tell kids from my experience, of things that happened to me, and that I've, had to learn my lesson from the hard way, and that's why I tell them, like, hey, look, I ain't trying to do this to yell at you. I just trying to tell you because I did it, and I know what it's like, what the consequences can be out of this, So yeah, it's more of trying to see them be safe, because it's hard to watch, like. We grew up with, with the biggest bike we had, I think was like a 250 or a 450. We were lucky to have like a 500. Now these kids are driving around on 1000s, so it's a lot of bike for these young kids. And, I know they're good drivers and but it can happen to anybody too.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter how much experience you have. It's just all about, trying to be as safe as you can while you're operating these vehicles, So
exactly. That's what I was just saying. My last bike experience, it turned ugly and I ended up falling off the bike and didn't get majorly hurt, but it sure scared me.
Yeah,
so
for
now
sure.
I'm the passenger. But it's really important for these youth, especially these young guys, to have these mentors in the community to streamline them, focus them, see their talents, and keep them the guardrails on so that they stay safe. So it's really awesome to see that you're doing that for the community. For the rest of the winter, like the next month, how does that work for you? Like once you have your last race, like is there a whole process that you have to go through to take the track down, or do you just let it go naturally on its own?
Well, first of all, we put out a lot of tires out there, so we try to get them off right away. Even after the event, we try to just get the snow out so they're not stuck to the ice, so we don't have any. Because I try to keep the ice as clean as I can, and I go around, I pick up all the garbage, little pieces of plastic that fall off the cars, bumpers or headlights. I always pick them up right away, and we actually had a big fire on the ice, so there's from the pallets, all the nails. Like we have a tractor, we're gonna go out there, and we're just waiting for the nicer weather. It kind of froze up right away. We couldn't really. We tried it, but it was no effort in doing it. So we're just waiting for within the next day or
today.
2. Yeah, like today. It should be easier. So we definitely go out there and clean up and try to make it as clean as possible. Even like if there's like oil stains, we'll try to scrape them up with a shovel just to get that little bit of ice out, so it doesn't go into our water. But at the end of the day, it's there's motors and vehicles on the ice, you can't save everything. And, like boats, their exhaust is right in the water, like I'm not trying to say, it's any better or worse, but it's just, there's a little bit of consequences that we take. But honestly, like with all the with everything melting, like a lot of it gets filtered out with the high waters and the flow and stuff like that. And we've been doing it for years, and I'm sure there's a lot worse out there that could be affecting our water. So I get a little bit of questions from people, like the same thing. What are you doing? Gonna do? Oh, you're making a mess out here. Like no, like let me finish. Let the day finish. When we go out here, don't worry, we clean up. We can't. That's why we try to tell everybody that races, bring a mat. Put a mat underneath your vehicle in case it's leaking any kind of fluids. At least the mat's catching it, and bring a garbage, and so you're not throwing all your garbage all over the place.
A little bit of preventative measure.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like that pretty much everywhere you go now. Like even we raced at Ormstown when the ice wasn't good. We raced in Ormstown, like the fairgrounds. They had a track. They would water it, and even there we had to bring a mat even if it was on the line. It doesn't matter where it is. It's just to prevent spills and going into contaminate the soil. So
nice. Well, it's good to know that you are thinking ahead like that. And this past weekend, you hosted your second night races?
Yeah, it was the second night race that I was in charge of, and my team, we all kind of last minute got it ready. We had it planned, and it was it's going to probably be our last race to kick off the end of the year. You know what I mean? Everybody waits for that big night race out of the year, so. I didn't want to do it too early in the season. This way, it takes a lot of work, and it's draining, especially when you got to go to work the next day. You got to come back and load up all the lights, But like I said, I got a pretty good team and a lot of buddies that like to help out. So it's just it's more of like the big party, the grand finale of the year, So.
Maybe next year we'll have to collab together and put together some sort of event with tourism, have some sort of food and some sort of vendors there and start that buzz around it.
Yeah. Well, there was 2 vendors actually this week. We had the Wild Bush Cuts there,
nice.
Shell Stacy. So
awesome.
he's I encouraged him to try to come out and sell some deer meat and like chili, moose chili or whatever, chili dogs. He's making all kinds of wild game, perch nuggets, walleye nuggets, and it's really good, So, and a lot of people from out of town don't get that opportunity to try like a vendor that's wild game, So that's another thing that we brought back together, is let's try this with our wild game. You might as well use it. You have it. So a lot of people were scared, like a little unsure of to go eat it or not. And I was like, a couple of my friends from out of town there, I was like, here, try this. They'd buy it, take a bite, and they're like, oh my God, this is so good.
Yeah.
They expect it to be really gamey, but it's not. It tastes better than getting it at an actual fast food restaurant.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's all homemade.
Well, that's it. With tourism right now, that's what we have a big a gap with traditional foods. All the restaurants in the community make amazing food, but to find traditional foods on the menu is a little bit harder.
Yeah.
So when we have events, having an organization like that doing it is awesome. I made the moose soup for the ice fishing derby, and the 2 pots went. Everybody was having thirds and fourths.
Yeah.
So it's really awesome to be able to share also the food with the people that are coming to visit and really open their eyes on what we're trying to do for ourselves, especially after that article came out in the newspaper last year saying it was black market and all this negative stuff.
Yeah.
They're seeing that we're trying to elevate ourselves and our communities, but are being pushed down at the same time. So it's always awesome for them to come here, have that opportunity on their own, and then go back and spread that with their friends, their family, so that they see it was a really awesome experience. The food was delicious. And it's not what was portrayed to them. So those opportunities are priceless to me. Yeah. So moving forward with your ice races, how do you think you can engage the youth to get them to participate more?
Oh, it's more of like starting off small, What's easier nowadays is to race like a front wheel drive, like a 4-cylinder, like a Honda Civic or like a Chevy Cobalt. It's like the littler cars,
Drifting.
They're cheap and they're really easy to get ready to go. You don't really have to do too much. We have like a couple classes for that. We run one with like they're called MF44s. They're studs. Like back in the day, used to run Skidoo studs, so they're a lot bigger, but it's a lot of work. And they just tried. Brandon actually brought this down, because he was always down to try different strategies of racing. It was a little easier and affordable for people to put together a car with these studs, So, the front wheel drives, that's something to really start off with to get the feeling of driving on ice. You're driving front wheel drive. If you want to get a big car and race in the rear wheel drive, we have like the stock V8 class. The stock V8 class is more like the local guys that used to ice race. So people that still have their cars in their backyard, they pull them back out, and because we have another class, it's called semi-pro. So what these guys do, they get an older Caprice or old police car, they strip it right down and they build like basically a box all the way around it with steel reinforcements, plates. So these guys make their cars last, they're like tanks. They're like 7,000 pounds, So we've had a couple times where we would mix our cars with them, and it's too much damage, and it's not worth it. They all race like that, so I always make sure I have them, and it's not safe, also. So a lot of guys will just have either a door bar or a roll cage, and you get hit by these cars, it's like getting hit by a freaking dump truck. So it's not something to it's not something that you probably wouldn't want to jump into right away, because I would say get into it, like I said, with the front wheel drive. It's cheap. It's really easy. They're easier to find too, the cars. There was maybe a little group of my friends that just, it was their first year started off, you know, I was like, hey, just ice race these cars. It was like their first car or something they bought. It were just kind of sitting in their yard, or, you know, they bought one real quick. It was like $200-$300 for these cars. They don't look good, but you can have fun, you know, and it doesn't take much, you know, so.
That's so cool. And I heard that you guys had a women's division.
Yeah. What we do is, like, at the end of the day, like, the girls will go around and, like, ask if they can take a car, and we'll do a little tiny, like, race for them. It's just to change it up, you know. It's more just for them to get out there and go do a couple laps, you know.
When I heard, I was like, I want to.
Yeah, the thing with that is it's fun to see, you know, but it's just it's a little unsafe, you know. Yeah, we had two girls. They were doing really good. It was actually Brandon's daughter, Dewa White, and Yudzi. They were out there battling each other. It was funny to watch, you know. They're spinning out. Yudzi was spinning out, and Dewa was doing pretty good, you know. I'm not trying to say she's a bad driver, Yudzi, but Dewa was always behind the wheel with her father also, you know. So it's kind of like it's in her blood to be a good driver. She's been driving dirt bikes and since she was little also, you know. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, it's nice that you guys made a space for women and girls to feel comfortable to try out this sport that is male dominated.
Yeah, and it's fun to watch, you know. It's you know, but we try to do it at the end of the day, so in case they wreck one of their cars and they're still in one of the heat races, you know. So that's why we're like, okay, at the end of the day, if you can find a couple cars that someone's gonna let you drive, you know, because you don't know you don't know what's gonna happen out there. So you gotta we usually do it at the end of the day, but it's fun to watch. Yeah.
So when you transition from ice racing, do you get involved in racing in like Napierville, or do you do any of that type of stuff for the rest of the year?
Oh yeah, we drag race all summer. You know, we have our old cars, and a couple of my buddies. We're in the garage all summer. You know, that's what keeps us busy. You know, we have garage sodas often. Yeah. But no, it's just something to do, and it's passing on the tradition that's been in Kahnawake. You know, there's a lot of hot rodders around, you know, so, you know, not a lot of people like it. You know, nowadays people are a little, you know, difficult to deal with, but, you know, it's as long as you're being safe with it and, you know, you're not flying around in town, you know. A couple times, you know, on the highway, I've got pulled over for doing a little bit over the speed limit, you know, not too much, just a little bit, but yeah, so it's just something to do, you know, to keep us busy. Keeps me out of trouble. You know, there's so many things in the community that people can do, and it's just a matter of getting out there and doing it. You know, get off your phones, get off the video games. You
know,
you know, I don't not calling out video games and stuff like that, but it's just nice to try different things. You know, try to do what you're playing on your video game in real life. You know, so yeah,
put those hands to use.
Yeah.
And it's such a important skill to have. Also, just all the work that you guys do with getting these vehicles prepared as mechanics, and it's a trade that is really important to keep alive, and just something really important for everybody to know if something happens, how to fix something. And it's an invaluable skill set to have passed down from your father to you, and then eventually to your kids.
Yeah.
So it's awesome that you're keeping that alive and sharing that. I was always interested in the tinkering. I changed spark plugs at one point on my Cutlass. I was like, woohoo!
Yeah, it's definitely something to get into, and you don't just go out there to race and learn how to ride a car. You also learn how to fix it, you know, too. And everybody has their own ways of fixing things. You know, a lot of my buddies would ask me a couple questions. I'm like, hey, long as it works, you know, like you're just ice racing. That's not like you're doing this to your daily driver and you're going across the country, you know, you're just trying to make the race, you know. There's like last week, actually, when I was at the night race, my first lap, I went around and one of the cars lost it in front of me and I took out my whole radiator, you know, and like I was there all day, you know, we were all prepared, you know, we got all ready all week for this race, you know, so we were looking at the car and it didn't look too good, you know, but then everybody started coming around. I had Soot Rice there. He's into the NASCAR circuit, you know, so that's right up his alley for what we were doing. You know, my father was in there and everybody just started, we were all like, we had like, you know, the red side of the pits, you know, it was all guys from town. So everybody jumped in, you know, even guys from other communities and different trailers. They, you know, all my buddies, you know, they came over, you need the tools, you know, this and that. Well, they were getting it apart. I actually had to come home and get a radiator and take it out of my Bonneville, my summer car, so I came home, I took the radiator back out, got all the fluid, and by the time I got back, they had it all bent out. We just dropped the radiator in and got it all ready to go, and I ended up making the second heat too, and then I won. I came out on top on that one, and then the final, I was able to. I won too. So
congratulations!
Yeah, it was a day. Yeah, we were all pretty stoked how it went. It was a real experience of having a pit crew there for sure.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's hard to do it by yourself. Especially if you're trying to be in there to win. When you're on top, you got to do whatever you can to stay. Especially if you're in the points. You know what I mean? So. You can be out there winning all year, and that one race could throw off your points, So it's a competitive, especially when there's points involved. Yeah.
Do you have anybody that comes from other communities? Like, does anybody come from Kahnawake or Akwesasne?
I'm honestly not to race. We had maybe one guy that was from Kahnawake, I think, before, but not really. I haven't seen anybody from any other res that came down.
Do they have any ice races in their areas?
I don't think so. I think we're the only ones that are doing this. I know there's a couple other places around. Like I know New Hampshire they were doing a race before. Lake George has like a big event. Cool. It's a different kind of an event. Like they do like road courses and more like Jeeps racing and stuff like that. But it's pretty cool. So
you participated in that?
No, I actually didn't. There was a couple guys that went to New Hampshire a couple years ago, and they did the race there. Nice. So. Yeah, but I don't know if they have been having it because of the weather lately. I know.
So, last winter was like 50% okay. And then the winter before that, it was so mild out that all of our winter activities got canceled. So I was happy to see that the ice was real thick this year. I was even going to go to Rideau Canal and go skating there because the ice was actually here for the first time in 3 years. How do you navigate the weather challenges? Like if you have a race day set for a certain day, when do you call whether or not it's going to happen?
It all depends, like if it's real mild out all week and there's a lot of water on the track, and it's let's say like a Thursday, Friday, it's not looking too good, I'll call it off. But lately a lot of the call offs have been the day of because I try to get out there pretty early just to go check it out and see how it is. I'm usually out there by like 7, you know what I mean? I'll get up, it's early for the weekend, I like to sleep in too.
That's the time I was drilling in the tent for the ice fishing.
Yeah. So about 7, 8 o'clock, I'll go out there and check it out and just get set up. I'll bring my trailer just so I don't have to rush around. I try to get everything done pretty early. Nice. So so last 2 weeks ago when we were the date of the actual memorial race for Brandon that we planned, we had to cancel because you couldn't see 10 feet in front of you. Just being out there, like it looked like I pulled up there and it looked like there was a race going on, and there was nobody out there. Yeah. So
the wind
it's too dangerous. That's a thing that we have to take into action a lot is the weather. If it's too dangerous, it's not worth the run. Because you're flying around in cars in basically a blizzard that you can't see in. So it's something that we all, a lot of guys we talk over. There's a few guys who are like, oh, we want to race no matter what, like, hey, it's not, if you okay, yeah, but it's somebody else, and then what happens if somebody hits you, then it's not going to be funny, so yeah, we got to really look over all the safeties, that we take, because my first year actually running it was kind of just like a little pickup race that we wanted to do because there was actually no races going on at all. And I was sitting out down my road. I live down Bells Beach, and I was actually with Derek's son Watahogu, and I had a little front wheel drive car, and my buddy had some tires. I just threw them on just to go mess around on the track, and we were sitting there, and like we should just try to have a race this weekend. And he's like, yeah, I'm down. I'm like, ask your father if we can use the ramp down that road. We had it on the other side the first year. We didn't use the marina because we just kind of threw it out there. It was like mid-January, so I think we were able to do 3 weeks, but the last week, that's when those cars went in the ice. So yeah, it was more it wasn't the thickness of the ice that was not safe. It was the area that we put the track in because they dredged out in front of the Elders Lodge, so there was actually a wave going underneath, and it was going up on a hill underneath the water. So every time the cars came around, or the cars and trucks, they do make a wave underneath just from the weight.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it just kind of like let go. It just kind of broke into big pieces. But you know,
Mm-hmm.
that's the risk we're taking. You're on ice, you know. You're literally driving on thin ice, you know. Yeah. So
Well, that's good that you guys are learning along the way. And now you're officially collaborated with the marina? Like you guys are official, or is it still independent?
no, we that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to involve the marina into it because it's been at the marina since it started, you know. So that first year was just kind of like a pickup, you know. We'll see what we can do, and then you know,
Gauge the interest.
We actually had that one season, and then the following year we didn't have any ice really. So I started back last year. Yeah, that was my first year back. I was unsure of like running it. Everybody was a little worried about from when the cars went through if it's going to be safe again. You know, it was a lot of getting comfortable with it, being on the ice again. You know, always having that in the back of your head. You know, so it's tough. You know, and that's why now like when I call off the ice races. You know, if it's not safe. Like that was the last weekend. The ice is still thick, but the track takes a lot of wear and tear from all the studded classes and all that stuff. They eat at the ice pretty good. So yeah, it's pretty done now, you know.
What is the thickness that you gauge?
We usually like to race anything over 13 to 15 inches is like is acceptable. It's I had no spectators on the ice for like I think the first week just because we gives the ice a chance to settle, just like I said with the boats and all that. Yeah. So the wave that was coming in and kept messing up with our weekends. So yeah, it was more like a safety concern.
With that ship that got stuck in the river, they were talking about that they were lowering river levels,
water levels. Yeah. So I'm not 100% sure if they did it because everyone was worried about like the ice lowering and then the around the shores cracking. So nothing seemed to be affected by it. No. We were out there the day they did it, and it didn't seem like nothing really to happen
because that boat was stuck for quite a few days.
Yeah. So they pushed it long this year.
Yeah. Very interesting. So what does ice racing? What does it give you in life? Like, what is it? What is it for you? What does it symbolize for you?
Well, it's my passion. You know what I mean? I played sports growing up here and there. You know, I wasn't too serious into it, and I was always into motors and being around, like I said, bikes and car. My dad was always drag racing, and obviously, from growing up at the garage, I just loved it. I was always pretty, I was always pretty good at driving, I guess you can say, since I was a kid, but to be able to compete now and, show off my skill is fun. And then also to, be able to build a car, not from complete scratch, but put a motor in it, get it all ready, fixed it every week, we blew up a motor the second week, got another one in there, blew up like 3 transmissions this year, like it's a lot of maintenance, it's a lot, I had pretty good sponsors this year. The playground helped me out. Kerry Goodleaf did Chiefs Convenience. There was a couple of different sponsors I had out there. Mick Weld, he has a big part into my car. He gets it all strong and reinforced. Awesome. So yeah, he's really creative with his ideas.
The junior or the senior?
I'm the junior. Yeah, Clive. Yeah. So yeah, he's got a pretty good skill of welding and making like good bumpers for me, roll cages. He does a lot of the cars for local guys, and if you ever need something done, he's the guy to go see. He's always down to take on any kind of job, he's awesome. And he's raced in he's raced before, with us, so he knows what to do. You just go there, I need a roll cage, make a bumper. He does it, so
promoting Shop Kahnawake.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's nice that we can just what we can do in the community, with the little things that we do have, a lot of guys can make some good cars,
That's really awesome. Well, that's one thing with tourism is that we're always looking to develop different opportunities for the youth to realize that there's so much that we can offer as an employment. It doesn't necessarily mean that somebody has to grow up and go to college and go to university. There's things that we can do in our own community where we can stay with our passions and make that into a livelihood for the people. So that's something that would be really exciting to see grow with this venture, especially because it's such a niche, because there's not many other communities that are doing this. So really to be able to tap into the people, to invite them over to Kahnawake, invite them over to share in the excitement of the day, share in the food of the day, and to walk away with those open hearts where they realize, like you said, that we're a pretty fun time.
Yeah, for sure.
And people just have to get past those stigmas. So yeah, it's really awesome to have people that we can showcase like you.
Yeah. And another thing was people were complaining a little bit when I start charging people $10 to get on the ice. There's a lot of the times I donated it to sports and different like the wrestling team. We did one for the soccer. We donated just whatever we have left over. Here, like put it, or even some of the racers they'll give their prize money to. They'll give it to some kind of foundation in the community. So and not only that, I got a couple of younger generation kids working for me. Like they're doing the entry fees, or there's a girl working there. She's young, and I'm paying them to do this. It gives them an opportunity to make a couple bucks and to feel a part to feel a part of it too. So like I have a flag, one of my flag guys. I pay them. Whoever's helping me in the pits. The lineup guys, I try to give them a couple bucks. Gives them a chance to make some money and work. It's people that don't really, that, younger, especially younger kids, they're not doing that on the weekend. You're sitting out there, hanging out. Why not get paid, So that's another thing that I like to throw out there, is because I had a little bit of issues with people being like, oh, we had to pay $10 to get on the ice. Like, hey, there's a lot of things that go into this, breakdowns, trucks, like fuel just to plow the track, and then to be out there all day. Like, not that I care about making a few bucks off it. It's more just to cover all our expenses, exactly.
People pay to go to the movies.
Yeah,
they
pay to go to lacrosse games. You pay to go do anything. So that's another thing too. And but it worked out pretty good this year. Like I said, I was able to get two younger girls to make a chance to get a couple bucks in their pocket and be a part of it too. Also, we had Brandon's daughter actually doing his younger daughter. She was doing the other entry fee, and she was being, just to be a part of it. She was even texting me, "Oh, can I work this week?" And like, yeah, for sure. Like that's what I want. Look, it gives her a chance to be out there too with the ice races.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I find since COVID, a lot of the generation that was affected by that, they've become very introvert. So it's trying to give as much opportunities as we can for them to find things that they do enjoy doing, that is a little bit out of their comfort zone, but not too demanding.
Yeah.
And they can see that they can contribute and do something positive in the community. So opportunities like that are always awesome to hear about.
Yeah, for sure.
Writing about it in my podcast. In my newsletter.
Yeah. And also like we try to bring in people to come into the bar and go grab a beer, talk to people. Everyone's friendly inside, like a lot of people are, they were a little iffy about coming into the bar, like they don't want no trouble, just as much as, anybody else. But it's more they're a little intimidated, people are louder here, like we have our words with saying,
they like
to
jokes.
They like to like not pick on them, but it's like try to get them to, shake them up a little, and then they, and anybody. At the end of the day, everybody's, laughing and we're all having a good time, and then it makes them come back, so.
Yeah, I worked at the marina for a while, so you'd get the people that would get off the boats and come in. And, and they were always like, I was scared to come, but now I'm going to always come here. It's just taking away those stigmas. And that's why it's really awesome to have tourism as a tool to be able to do that, to bring people. And a lot of people don't realize how much falls under that tourism umbrella in the community.
Yeah.
So what you guys are doing is really awesome, because you're working with Maple Grove and you guys have all these connections. So you already have a base. So pretty much they just got to accept the invitation and come on over.
And they're not afraid to come help too. Like I have a really good buddy out there, and his name's Jason, and he actually let me use his tractor for the last 2 years,
Nice.
With a snow blower on there. He'd come out here and plow the track. He had a big effect into these last 2 seasons. Without him, we wouldn't have had a nice track like the way we did. We wouldn't have had the snow removal as easy as it was, because When it starts to get, when the snow starts to come, it builds up and it creates water to come up. And just with a snowblower to be able to, blow the snow way out, it keeps it nice and clean and safe for everybody also too. So
a shout out to all the people who collaborate with our people in Kahnawake and make these things come to fruition. We really appreciate it. So Nyawa Goa for coming today. I was really happy that I locked you in. I was very patiently waiting for your season to be finished because I knew you were real busy. But we're excited for the next season to start next year and can't wait to see what you have building for the future. Just hearing all your ideas that you brought to the table today has really got me excited for different ideas that I have for collaborations that we could do together in the future. So if you have any final words to say before we wrap it up.
Oh, I just hope everybody else hears the word out there and, see what happens for next year,
Yeah. Nyawa.
All right. Now.
Okay. Ana.
The views and opinions of the guests expressed in this podcast do not reflect those of Udiwase and its employees.